Here's why the rich get richer. Instead of spending early money, they invest it. Instead of wasting time, they invest time in learning. Instead of planning, they start executing.
Things I learned growing up around billionaires, building my own business. Part 1. Any business that sells products or has physical expenditures is going to have much lower profit margins than an online, virtual, or service-based business. Something that literally anyone can do with no money is start an online service-based business. Learn the skills that you need to be a social media manager, virtual assistant, Pinterest manager, copywriter, and then build a personal brand on social media and market yourself for free, organically. My business does around $50,000 in sales every single month. And because it's completely online, that is 95% profit.
3 reasons why rich people get richer. Rich people are using debt as leverage. If they put 25% down on the home, they are using the bank to finance the other 75%. The same thing applies to any other asset. Rich people are borrowing against their assets. So they have stocks, they've got bonds, they've got real estate, and the banks will give them 50% of that value of the portfolio as a loan, a low interest loan. You gotta understand how they work. The third and the final thing is that all of this debt, the interest on it, is actually a tax write-off. They are doing things that you are not. But if you think like them, you can use the exact same strategies.
Okay, so there's 2 additional things I would say that the rich do to get richer. And the first thing is right out of Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, is they buy assets and not liabilities, right? So an asset puts money in your pocket, a liability takes money out of your pocket. So they spend a lot of time with the money that they make from their jobs or from their business. They take that money and they reinvest it into assets, right? They buy stocks, they buy real estate, those type of things, and it's not much more difficult than that. They don't take their money and blow it on watches and cars and all that kind of stuff. They do that afterwards. So that's the first thing. And then the other thing that the rich do is they start businesses, right? Pretty simple stuff. They do this because the biggest reason is because you can take advantages of tax and debt with a business, right? You can go make money, and it's you can write off a lot of things, and then afterwards you pay a lot less taxes in a corporation than you would as an employee. So those are 2 things that the rich do to get richer.
I interviewed a 17-year-old entrepreneur, for example, and his point of no return experience was when he and his friend, they put their money together, their savings, they invested $10,000 into a huge shipment of shoes. And he said his point of no return was first when they spent the money, but second, when a huge truck came and offloaded basically a mountain of shoes. He said he realized that at that point he couldn't go back. Basically at that moment, his identity shifted. He said at that moment he realized that he was leading a company, and from that moment forward, he acted from that leadership role. So he put himself in essentially a position where he had to move forward. That's why it was a point of no return. Because in a lot of ways, he couldn't actually go back. He couldn't actually give the shoes back. But what was more important about the point of no return for this 17-year-old is that there was an identity shift. There's a really good quote from Oliver Wendell Holmes, and he says, "A mind stretched by a new experience can never go back to its former dimensions." Changing your behavior has to be first a shift in identity. When you shift your identity first, then the behavior that is up here where your goals are is in alignment with your identity. If you keep your identity down here and you're trying to act up here, then you're actually acting in conflict with how you see yourself. And that doesn't work.